Hi everyone, welcome to today's podcast created and hosted by ICP featuring cool project results. My name is Petra Pomper and I'm an expert at ICP and your host for today. This series is a part of ICP's podcast called Energy in Your Ears. This new season was developed to celebrate the organization's 10th anniversary, and over the course of 10 episodes we will hear more about the topics ICP works on, including house inclusivity, local and regional climate and energy governance, building renovation and one-stop shops to industrial efficiency, and many more. In this episode, turning small projects into big investments, the ENERGATE story, we are talking about something that has been on everyone's mind: how to attract big investors to finance energy efficiency renovations. As we all know, the situation across Europe that millions of buildings need renovation, yet the money to make it happen is not always visible at first sight, or it's hard to reach. The Energate platform was designed to change that by aggregating projects and helping investors assess larger pipelines of energy efficiency projects. To explore how this works, I'm joined today by Alexandra Hedesiu from EnerSave Capital and Jose de Pedro from COMMUTY, one of the key people behind EnerGate project. Alex, Jose, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Petra. Thank you for having us today.
Hello, good morning. Thank you.
Great to have you here today. So before we dive into EnerGate, let's start with a quick introduction so our listener can get to know you. Could you tell us a bit who you are and what is your role in the EnerGate project?
Should I go first? Okay, I'm going to go first. Ladies first. Thank you, Jose. So my name is Alexandra Hedesiu. I'm the managing partner of and head of sustainability at EnerSave Capital. We're a Luxembourg-based finance facilitator for sustainable assets, which means that we're supporting companies to access finance, but at the same time, we are creating financial products for capital market. Yeah, and in EnerGate, our role was to ensure that the information is presented in such a manner that is, let's say, investor digestible, so they can really find very quickly the information that they need from building owners or the ESCO industry. And that's mainly what we've done. We also interacted a bit with financiers and other type of stakeholders, real estate, etc. I'm going to give now the word to Jose.
Thank you, Alex. On my end, I'm Jose de Pedro, one of the founders at COMMUTY. We're an asset management firm focused on the Spanish and Portuguese market. We also invest in startups. We 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 have track record of managing portfolios over 200 million asset under management and leveraging and directing fundraising for portfolios and developers over 150 million. Our goal and role at Energate platform is to facilitate the incorporation of new asset managers, building owners, implementers, and facilitate the pipeline for assets to be financed, including also on the other end, the financiers will make the match with the building owners in order to facilitate the renovation of buildings. We're very happy with the results and how far we've gone in a very quite short period of time, and how the market is also coming along with us, pushing for energy efficiency renovations.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, Jose, for this quick introduction. Now that we know who you are and what is your role in Energate, let's give our listeners a bit of a foundation of what Energate actually is. So, Jose, for our listeners who are joining us, let's say for the first time, can you explain us what exactly Energate is and what makes it actually unique compared to other initiatives in the energy efficiency?
Absolutely. Energate, it's a combination of a fintech and a proptech. So it's a company that actually aims to facilitate the financing of energy efficiency renovations projects and ultimately facilitate the energy transition in the whole real estate and building industry. by generating or facilitating the matchmaking between building owners and implementers and financiers in order to finance these capex renovation projects that for now were quite granular and difficult to make an aggregation, and for both sides of the table, the implementers and the building owners, and on the other end, the financier, was difficult to actually facilitate this. So by doing a simple on the front end, difficult on the back end process, what we're doing is basically an aggregation of all these capex, who will facilitate banks and alternative lenders to promote these green loans by deployment, by actually financing all the projects that we have on the platform. It's very much aligned to all the new energy transition goals of the European Union, the European Commission, but also it's very much aligned with the ambitions of the asset managers, co-investors in the real estate industry, who have noticed the need of renovating the assets to avoid any obsolescence in their portfolio. So it's a perfect timing for a good platform that is really facilitating something that was the entry barriers for many of the asset managers and financiers.
Thank you, Jose. That really helps to set the stage. But as we all know, even with the great ideas, solid technology, the developed platforms, the huge hurdle is still in the financing part. So, Alexandra, why is attracting funding for energy renovation still so difficult, especially when it comes to large institutional investors?
That's a good question. I think that Jose kind of, let's say, touched a little bit, brushed a little bit about a couple of reasons. So, small fragmentation, small projects. It's, let's say, one of the main barriers. There are multiple, yeah. So I'm just going to focus on, let's say, three that we feel that are the strongest. So investors, when they do, let's say, the due diligence on a project or on a pipeline of projects, the effort and the, let's say, the human resources needed is the same. So if they look at a project that is very small, 50,000 euro, if they look at a project that is 25 million euro, the amount of work is the same, which makes the capital very expensive for the smaller projects. And this is one of the things that, for example, in ENERGATE, we're trying to kind of overcome, is by aggregating this type of smaller projects. So what we're trying is to create bigger asset class from smaller type of projects. We try to bundle them together depending on a couple of KPIs and a couple of items, let's say, that are super important in order to be able to put them together. And bundle them, and we are creating what it's called a pipeline of projects, yeah. And then this type of entities can enter, like the implementers can enter into framework agreements with the different funds, and the funds can actually interact with smaller projects like that, increasing the traction of energy efficiency in this space. Then, of course, lack of standardization is again one of the major problems when we're talking about energy efficiency projects, yeah. Because if we even look at the European Union, although we're quite legislation, regulations that are similar, directives, etc., we do have specifics. So even if we're looking at the energy performance certificate, very often is not comparable between countries. And this is one of the biggest efforts that the EU Commission is doing right now, is trying to make sure that we're comparing apples with apples and oranges with oranges. And so lack of standardization in terms of contracting, in terms of data is very important. So ENERGATE also is trying to support that by providing standardized calculations on the platform. So when we're looking at CapEx, OpEx, let's say that the benchmark is the same. So then the investors can really look and compare like proper data, and ensuring their, let's say, their decision making and making it a little bit easier. And then data is one element. I think that robust data and monitoring and post monitoring are very important as well. And ENERGATE is also bridging that gap, because we will, Energate is providing data on the building. Also, performance and post monitoring is something that is very important, especially for the financing sector, as they are having a lot of reporting to do lately under the Sustainable Finance Reporting Directive, the CSRD, all these directives that are tackling different stakeholders. The financial stakeholders are also one of those ones. So there are multiple reasons why, and there are a couple of barriers, but these are the main ones that we're really trying to tackle with Energate.
Thank you, Alex, for this brief but very detailed information about all the problems that we have, or which make the investors quite hesitant. And you mentioned what Energate platform does and how overcomes these issues. Can you please maybe try to explain us a bit how can Energate help to solve these issues? You mentioned the aggregation functionality, so please can you just elaborate it a little bit?
So I think that what is important to understand when we're talking about finance is that money is out there and it exists. It is just making the products in such a manner and structure them in such a manner that financiers can actually tap into that and be able to invest. So, and it's more difficult to raise 100,000 euro than it is to raise bigger amounts. Yeah. So to finance smaller projects, it's always a bit more difficult. And this is why aggregation in one of the main issues, let's say, or main items that we really try to focus on the Energate platform. And that means that by bringing together like many small renovation projects and aggregate them into bigger pipelines, we provide, when we do that, we provide common templates, standardized project documentation, and what, let's say, what uh, from a technical perspective, from cost benefit analysis, from expected energy savings. So what I would call, or we would call at NSAFE, to be honest, an ultra complete file. Yeah. So that means that when an investor then looks at the data, they can very easily make a decision, which means speed, which means that if there's something that is missing, the reaction is different, it's faster, which means that in turn the projects can actually get financed a little bit quicker, rather than looking at the portfolio and analyzing the project for 6 months. We really speed up the process. Even if it's a no, it's better to have a no quicker than have a no in 6 months. Yeah. So this is also one of the things that is really important. What we're doing with Energate is, via the aggregation, via the standardized procedures, we're increasing the speed of closure of a deal. And for obviously, again, for financiers, this makes the projects, as I mentioned, comparable, verifiable, scalable. Yeah, so they can evaluate very quickly. Investors currently have a bit of a pressure because they do have, let's say, green standards that they need to, or let's say that invest in green assets or sustainable assets, and energy efficiency is one of those assets. We just need to make it, just to support them in order to be, for them to be able to invest in this type of products. So instead of financiers looking at hundreds of small risky projects, we just create the bundles. We have a diversified portfolio pipeline. We spread the risk amongst the different projects, and we reach also the investment volume that is needed. And this is why Energate is important, yeah, because it really does that, and that's, let's say, one of the, yeah, value proposition that Energate puts in front of its users. I hope I can answer the question.
Yes, of course you did, Alex. Thank you very much for this. So we actually talk about the Energate platform, about the aggregation, and how it can help investors to recognize the viable and let's say low risk projects. But I would like to hear, Jose, your opinion about the investor experience. So my question to you is, from your perspective, what do you think are the key aspects in the matchmaking process from the investor's perspective?
I think, uh, as everything in the real estate industry, is confidence. And the way you get this confidence is by being transparent, because the in a platform where, and we can face it very easily, what we don't have these personal relationships in, because we are building these relationships. the way to build them is by really being fully transparent. And this is key. And this has been one of the things that has been driven the development of the platform since day one, making sure that the information is synthesized enough, not too many information, the precise information for banks to say, for finances to say, I like the project. It really fits my investment or allocation criteria. And from there is, and this transparency and fluidity is the way with the matchmaking process is really been developed and with all the development of the back end of the platform. Second thing is ensuring pipeline. What is key is that we have already the interest of large asset managers, middle scale asset managers, but also financiers. And this will grant that the platform is not something that it's empty. On the contrary, there's a continuous flow of new projects coming in, new finances willing to finance, that also facilitate in a world that we live in these days where there is a significant amount of debt available, but there is a lack of this debt to be deployed. And the reason is why it's basically because it's difficult to build these relationships. So by being fully transparent and making sure that there's a kind of a speed dating space where you could really quickly interact and see whether there is a match, that's the key of the platform. You will see that the information is been synthesized enough because it's been prioritized and selected by people who has significant track record in the industry. So it's not too technical at the beginning. It's the information that you need to really make the choice of really I want to make and go for the next step. I really get further information on the deal, and then everything will be more fluid.
Thank you, Jose, very much for explaining this to us and to bring us closer to this investment side. Do you have maybe some, let's say, real life case where Energate can help or it helps to turn a group of small projects into something that is really investment ready, some aggregation of some projects or something that you come across with?
Absolutely. And there is a very good example of something that we currently working at. It's a mid-size Spanish asset manager who is working on a more granular basis and has acquired 17 properties, that small properties, apartments that they need renovation of a total amount of 3.6 million on capex. And then each development will take around 200K on energy efficiency measures, changing windows, the HVAC, improving the thermal isolation, etc., etc. Going one by one, no bank will listen to him. No bank will take the um, effort to finance 200K. Um, Now, if you aggregate them, then it's 3.6, which is good. But if you aggregate with other mid-size asset managers with similar projects, similar returns, then you could go to 10 million. Now, any financier will say, my effort in terms of time and resources that I need to take for 10 million is the same as for 3.6, is the same as 200K. But if you facilitate me to finance 10 million, I will go further. I will really go full speed on that. And if it's green, which is this case, because you're going to be focused on energy efficiency, then I can use my pocket, green pocket here, where there's 10, 15 basic point reduction on the interest rate, and then from something that at the beginning was quite impossible, we're making it happening. We're making it alternative lenders and financiers saying, I'm interested. I want to finance that project. For the mid-sized asset manager, the initial equity deployment was significant. It was a total amount of 3.6. When you look at that deal by deal, yeah, it's 200K, it's not so much, but it was a total amount of 3.6. That's quite a lot of equity risk there for something that could be perfectly financed. Now, if we facilitate that financing, then the equity risk take by the asset manager is significantly lower for something that is quite straightforward. It's financing of capex, and then we make it happen. Now we're currently on the stage of more making sure that the finance will happen. But what's quite surprising is to see both sides of the table, the asset manager and the financier saying, "Hey, this is something that I wouldn't have looked at all unless you have aggregated like you did. So hopefully it will be a good success story. But so far, it's been a very positive feedback that we have received.
Yeah, very very good example, Jose. Thank you very much. This is a project that really shows the potential uh, in aggregated state. Let's say. Um, And also, I would like to ask Alex the next question, and it is about the, let's say, afterlife of the project, since Energate is actually ending this year. So I was just wondering, what are the next steps, let's say, for the Energate platform? Will it continue after the project wraps up, and how it will continue?
Good question, and it's actually a question that we received from many current users and future users, hopefully, because post sustainability it's indeed very important. So indeed, the project is going to finish as you rightly said in December. I mean, the good news is that this is by no means the end of the platform's journey. Yeah, I think it is just the beginning of the next phase, and this is how we are looking at it as a consortium. The Anigate platform will transition from, let's say, an EU project, slow and research oriented, to a more commercial, into commercially operation, which means that it's going to have a dedicated entity that is going to be established by the end of the project, that is going to take over the platform and ensuring its long-term sustainability and operation, maintenance, and growth. And it's going to this new organization is going to actually take it forward a little bit and have a dual role. First, we are having a plan to raise capital to be able to support, sustain, and develop the platform a little bit more, because clearly in this space that is so organic and so dynamic, there are always new features that are coming in, and there are more demands, or let's say more data that needs to be captured, or other type of functionalities that is going to need to be included in the platform to ease the, let's say, the user experience. And then clearly on the other side, on the flip side, the new entity will need to promote the usage of the platform and try to tackle also different type of stakeholders. Currently, we focused, as very aptly Jose described, it was about financiers, implementers, and building owners, project developers, etc., across Europe. I think we had a lot of lessons learned during the duration of the project. So we're going to now tackle also real estate brokers, manufacturers as well. It seems like it's a good untapped, let's say, potential there. We started already to engage with a couple of manufacturers within the European Union, and it seems that there's a lot of interest. One-stop shops, they are very, very important, as you also said in your introduction, is one of the, let's say, structures that the European Commission now is promoting on the residential and also on the public sector. So those type of entities, we already have 1-2 users that are looking at the platform, and they see that is very interesting. So hopefully we're going to increase that base as well. And then clearly, I think one other focus is going to be to really build from, let's say, partnership with financial institutions, associations at a new level. They're also, let's say, we can have really good relationship with them and create these alliances where we really promote the platform and the services, but they can also bring a lot of extra value to their members. Yeah, so I think, maybe just to wrap up and sum up. The platform is not going to end with the project. It's actually going to go forward and evolve into a commercial operation, and hopefully really achieve the mission. That was the core of this project, was to really bridge the gap between the local energy renovation projects, the large scale investors, and really have an impact, because in the end of the day, it's really all about having impact and making sure that the energy transition is happening, and we can support that. So that's going to be the goal and the mission of the platform as we go forward.
Yeah, thank you, Alexandra, for this. Yeah, quite exciting times ahead of us, and quite a new, let's say, also challenging part for the Energate platform to adapt to this commercialized version. And yeah, as we are actually getting close to ending this podcast, just before that, I would like to hear from each of you. Let's say a last final thought. So, if you would have one key message for large investors right now, what it would be? Alex, you can go first.
First again. Yeah, so I think that the main message would be to, yeah, it would be for them to join the platform today, to take advantage of the fact that the renovation, the energy renovation, the energy efficiency space, it's no longer a niche, it's no, or let's say, just a small opportunity, but it is really an emerging scalable asset class. And I think that if they would join the platform, they would see that and they would really be able to deploy their capital and have a true impact from, reaching the 2050 climate goals.
Um, Absolutely. I cannot say, but and agree with what Alex was saying. Join the platform, join the platform, join the platform. Um, Nowadays, why you should join? First thing, it's there's a responsibility here for everyone who are working in the real estate industry. Let's not forget, we are responsible for almost 40% of the global emissions. Now, and if you want to look at on the other side of the coin, for now, nobody has pointed a finger at us yet. But the moment we see that we are responsible for such a big amount of global emissions, now someone is going to start saying, "What are you doing, guys? You should change." Like any other industry has already changed, and we haven't. So you can look at from a more moral, ethical perspective, which is the side I like to look at. So being responsible, and we have accountability for that. You can look at it on the other side, more aggressive side, if you want to. You really going to be looked as someone who is responsible for that, and you need to change. You must change. Now, there is also proven track record that there is return. So this is not money that you're gonna waste, even if you, I would say, obliged to be less responsible for the global emissions. But there's returns. So it's proven. There's financial returns. There's environmental returns. There's social returns by doing it. So, um, and and if you really want to look at the third point is your assets may become obsolete in a very short period of time. And the real estate industry is a long-term driven industry, economy. Now, in 3, 5 years, your assets may completely be or impossible to rent, impossible to sell, because they won't be competitive to any other asset who will be more efficient than yours. So if you look at the 15-year scenario, which is not so long for the real estate industry, there is a significant amount of capex that we need to implement to make sure that the assets are A, climate resilient, and B, more competitive compared to the rest of compared to the rest of the long-term investors, asset managers, building owners, etc. So take the 3 points: responsibility, B, returns, and C, fight against obsolescence. So if you want to join us and you concur with everything that we just said, more than happy for you to join. As Alex said, we're in a very exciting, and you, Petra, also said, we're in a very exciting times. We close to the end of the project, but starting a new phase that is even more exciting for all of us, on which the platform is really going to start to scale. We have already demonstrated the initial track record. Now we're going to scale. And for scaling, we need asset managers, building owners, implementers, escrows, and finances to join us.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, Jose, for these key messages. The really, what I can say from all of your messages today is really for the listeners to join the platform, to investigate the platform, to explore its possibilities, features. Also, we are always open to providing any feedbacks if anything is maybe unclear or something. So that was really. that was really very inspiring for us. Thank you again, Alex and Jose, for joining us today, for being with us, for explaining us how the ENERGATE is working and how it's changing the game for the energy efficiency financing. After all, and also to our listeners. I would like to invite you to stay tuned because in our next episodes, it's all about the decades of ideas and innovations because we're celebrating 10 years with our ICP director, Vlasis. So you really don't want to miss it. Come and hear more exciting news from our director. Thanks again to all for listening, turning small projects into big investments, the EnerGate story. My name is Petra and see you next time.